Have you ever heard of a man so seductive, so captivating, and so powerful that he had 1,000 women at his disposal? Yes, 1,000. A man who not only conquered queens and princesses, but was also obsessed with pleasure and lust to a level that surpasses anyone else in history. This man is none other than Solomon, the wisest king of all time, but also the one who drowned himself in limitless desire. What few people know is that this obsession with pleasure not only cost him his relationship with God, but also doomed the fate of his own people. Want to uncover the most hidden secrets of this story? Stay until the end, because what I'm about to reveal no one else will tell you. Let's get straight to the point. Solomon wasn't just any king. He was the richest man, the most influential, and without a doubt, the most desired of his time. The Bible states that he had 700 wives and 300 concubines. But have you ever wondered why? Was he just a womanizer? Or was there something much deeper behind it? What many people don't realize is that each of Solomon's marriages was a political move. He wasn't just emotionally involved. He used his relationships to consolidate power, forming alliances with enemy kingdoms. He married foreign princesses to avoid wars and secure wealth, but the price of this was high. The women he chose didn't share his faith. On the contrary, many were idolaters who brought their own pagan gods with them. And that's where everything started to fall apart. Now pay close attention to this detail. Solomon not only allowed but encouraged idolatry within Israel. And do you know what's even more shocking? He ordered the construction of temples for his wives' gods. Yes, the same king who built the great temple of God also erected altars for pagan deities like Ashtoreth and Moloch, known for their extremely perverse rituals. Just imagine, the wisest man in the world, the one who received an unparalleled level of knowledge directly from God, was completely overtaken by his passions and strayed far from the right path. And there's more. According to some scholars, Solomon even took part in the pagan rituals himself to please his wives. This means that the man who was supposed to be a model of obedience to God ended his life in complete spiritual collapse. You might think, well, Solomon made his choices, but that was his personal life. But no, the consequences of his actions didn't just affect him, they ruined Israel for centuries. After Solomon's death, his kingdom, once the most powerful in the region, was torn apart. His own son Rehoboam was so blinded by arrogance that he lost control, and the kingdom split in two, the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah. From that moment on, Israel was never the same again. Think about that. One man's uncontrolled desire destroyed an entire nation. And this wasn't just a political downfall, it was a spiritual collapse. Idol worship became common, corruption spread, and eventually both kingdoms were conquered and wiped off the map. Israel was taken into exile and Judah followed. The nation that was supposed to be God's chosen people crumbled because one man couldn't control his passions. Now let's bring this lesson into today's world. Solomon's story isn't just ancient history, it's a warning. His downfall shows us the true danger of unchecked desire and uncontrolled relationships. Having multiple partners might seem like pleasure at first, but spiritually and physically, it can lead to destruction. When a man has multiple partners, he's not just engaging in a physical act, he's connecting souls. The Bible describes this as becoming one flesh, and that's not just poetic language. It means that when you have a relationship with someone, you are spiritually tied to that person. Solomon had 1,000 soul ties. Imagine how much spiritual chaos that created in his life. Sexual sin isn't just a mistake, it opens doors to spiritual attacks. Solomon let his lust control him, and because of that, he invited demonic influences into his life. The gods he built altars for weren't just statues, they represented real spiritual forces. And when you give yourself over to something outside of God's will, you're inviting those same forces into your life today. It's not just spiritual. Science backs this up too. Having multiple partners increases the risk of disease, emotional instability, and even depression. Studies show that people who engage in promiscuous relationships have higher levels of anxiety, dissatisfaction, and even lower self-esteem. Why? Because the human heart isn't designed for endless, meaningless connections. It's designed for deep, meaningful love. Look at Solomon's end. He didn't die happy and fulfilled. He died frustrated, disillusioned, and aware that he had wasted his life chasing pleasure that never truly satisfied him. In Ecclesiastes, he admits that he tried everything, and in the end it was all vanity. He had wisdom, wealth, women, but none of it gave him true joy. But do you want to know what's even more terrifying? Solomon knew he was making a mistake. That's right. He wasn't naive or deceived, as some might think. In the book of Ecclesiastes, he himself confesses that he sought every possible pleasure and, in the end, realized that everything was vanity, a great emptiness. It's as if he was saying, I had everything, I tried everything, I did whatever I wanted, and yet none of it brought true fulfillment. It's a profound and at the same time disturbing message. The wisest man in history ended his life as a frustrated, disillusioned, and lost soul, proving that even the greatest wisdom cannot save someone who surrenders to unchecked desire. And now comes the big question: what can we learn from this? Solomon's story shows us that power and pleasure can become deadly traps when we place our desires above solid principles. He had everything a man could ever want, but he lost what mattered most: his connection with God and his own legacy. And here's another detail that few people mention. After Solomon's death, the kingdom of Israel was divided and never fully recovered. In other words, his decisions didn't just affect him, they forever changed the fate of the people he ruled. Now tell me, have you ever heard this story told like this with all these hidden details? I bet you haven't. And if you want more content revealing the Bible's most untold secrets, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because there's much more coming your way. And remember, no amount of wealth, power, or pleasure can ever fill an empty heart. See you in the next video.